research through our faculty and other opportunities. So what do CMU-Africa students look like? Currently, they're from 21 different nationalities, and it's a great community to be part of. I encourage you to follow us on social media and see what they're up to. And we provide quite a number of career services for them to make sure that once they transition into the workplace, that they're set. And we also have an industry innovation lab for those of our alumni who are interested in, alumni and students who are interested in creating their own businesses. So we provide supportive services and mentoring and training to make sure that by the time they launch their businesses, they have already reached a certain level for success. So you will find here the application timeline for those of you who are interested in applying to our programs. Applications already opened. The early admission deadline is December 15th, and all that's required is a CV transcript and a statement of purpose. If you submit all of this before December 15th, we will cover your English and technical test fees. We hope to make admission decisions by April of 2022, and if you are admitted, you'll be joining in August of 2022. So for those of you who are really, really interested, but are thinking that you can't possibly afford it, we have financial aid options available. Currently, we have the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship, which is a full scholarship. It covers both tuition and a living stipend, but we also have partial scholarships such as the Government of Rwanda Scholarship. This is guaranteed to all Rwandan students who are admitted to the program. So if you are Rwandan and you're interested in this program, you are guaranteed that you will either get the Government of Rwanda Scholarship or the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. But we also have the Mines, which is for international students, and 2 of our own funds that we use to help students. And we also have work study opportunities to help support our students and also allow them to gain some professional experience while they're going through their programs. So all in all of our students have some sort of financial aid, thanks to the government of Rwanda and CMU that subsidize this program, and then 77% are fully covered. So yeah, that's what I wanted you guys to know about our programs. Please remember about the early admission deadline. If you want us to cover your test fees, submit by December 15th. If you miss this deadline, you have an extra month. Our final admission deadline is January 15th. If you have any questions, I'm going to put my email in the chat and you can reach out to me. All right, so now we can begin the real fun stuff. I would like to introduce our moderator for the day. He's one of our students and we're very happy to have him on board. Percy, I'm calling you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Rosine.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for...
Yeah, sure.
Sure, you're very welcome. I'm happy to have you here and happy to have you take over this session for me. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Rosine. Yeah, good afternoon. Guest audience from several parts of the world. I can see that you quite joined very early. And thank you so much for this wonderful section. And thank you, Rosine, for walking us through what CMU-Africa looks like, what life in CMU-Africa looks like. Thank you very much. That was an amazing presentation. So we're going to just have 1 hour session, a discussion with a guest speaker. All right. It's going to be divided into 2 sections. The first part, the guest speaker is going to give a presentation of 15 to 25 minutes. Afterwards, we're going to the Q&A sections. So this is the format of the event. Just a few housekeeping rules, please. Would appreciate that you remain silent just as you are right now. Your mic mute. If you want to turn on your video, that's optional. You can go ahead with it. But you have to stay muted until you're granted permission to speak or to ask a particular question. We do encourage participation. This is actually going to be an interactive session. So we'd want you to, if you have a question, to put up your hand, and then we're going to call you up to ask your question. But then if you're not comfortable asking questions, you can drop it on the chat where we can just pick it up and address it to the moderator, to the guest speaker. All right. When you have the opportunity to speak, it will be great to have you just briefly introduce yourself. Like Rosine said, I am Percy Chukwudi, MSIT student, 2nd year, fully funded master by MasterCard Foundation. I'm Nigerian, and I'm delighted to be a student of CMU-Africa. As a matter of fact, I'm very proud to be one, a proud Tartan. So very quickly, let's just do a little exercise. We're going to use our chat right now, if you don't mind. Just hop into your chat and just do me a favor. Drop 2 of your favorite brands. Monitoring the chats to see what you're going to drop. Just 2 of your favorite brands, can be Coca-Cola, whatever, just up to you. Apple, interesting. Tesla, Google, Tesla, Nike. Keep it coming, please. Facebook, Tesla again, Adidas, Benz and Apple, Nike, Google. So the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Thank you so much for those of you who participated. That was an amazing one. So we are all familiar with organizations, institutions, and products, services being associated with the word brand. So usually when we talk about brand, what first comes into our mind is these top institutions like Nike, the Adidas, the Facebook, the Manchester United. And the list just goes on and on. But many are yet to realize that we as individuals, we are brands. So when I asked everyone to drop their favorite brand on the chart, I actually expected somebody to drop their name. I was expecting to see names like Zach, Iradakunda, and stuff like that. But apparently no one actually did. Perhaps you're yet to realize that you are a brand. So according to Tim Ferriss, you see, your brand is your name. And personal branding is about managing your name, even if you don't own a business. So our discussion this afternoon is going to center on creating your own brand. And if you don't feel like you have a personal brand yet, you are in the right place this afternoon. So this afternoon, Monica Sumbi will show you how to go about building your personal brand. Monica has worked in the media, marketing, PR, and communication space for over 2 decades. She's passionate about brand and communications. She enjoys meeting new people and solving crimes and mysteries. Perhaps in her other life, she would probably be a CSI. This afternoon, we are delighted to have Monica with us, who is going to walk us through this section and give us a breakdown of how we can build our personal brand and get to realize and understand that we as individuals, we are brand. And going forward, we can always project ourselves as brand. Monica Sumbi.
Thank you very much, Percy, for that amazing introduction. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity. I feel honored. I feel excited. And I'm really looking forward to the engagement that we're going to have as we begin on this self-exploration journey of creating our own brands. Just like Percy said, I want to assume that we have not yet created our brands, and that's why we did not share our names on the chat, as brands. Now, I'm going to take out my video because I want to focus on making the presentation to us. And then after the presentation, when we get into discussions, I will then put on my video. So.
Sorry, Monica, can you put it in presentation mode?
Oh, it's not in presentation mode?
No, it's still in slide.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Presentation mode? Yeah, now it's in presentation mode, isn't it?
It is presentation mode.
Great. Okay, great. So I'm going to begin with a question. And when you look at the different pictures of people we have on the screen, you may actually notice some of them, and of course recognize them. Like number one, a lot of you talked about the Apple brand, and that's synonymous, of course, to Steve Jobs, who is since deceased, but we're still talking about the brands that he created. Below him is also an individual who's deceased, is Mother Teresa, who shared her passion, I mean, her compassion and caring for people around the world with dignitaries. And they picked up on some of the initiatives that she created when she was still alive. Of course, we have Sauti Sol there. We know why we know them. There's Dangote, there's the former Miss Rwanda, I think 2020. And I picked her because I listened to some of the conversations within the office and I was looking for somebody in Rwanda to present on this. But when you look at them, you can see that they have a legacy that will outlive them even long after they are not with us. They are brands who are already established as individuals. So basically, what are we talking about today? What is personal branding and how do we understand personal branding as it applies to us as individuals? Like Percy said, a personal brand is your name. It is really synonymous to your reputation. And what is your reputation? It really refers to the way people see you. And maybe at this point, you'll take a moment to ask yourself, okay, fine, how do people see me? Am I a genius? Am I an innovator? Am I, a reliable person? What do I really stand for? And what comes to people's minds when my name pops up? What do they think about me when my name pops up? I picked this picture quite deliberately. This is a picture of one of our graduating classes right here at Carnegie Mellon. And the reason I picked it is I want us to visualize every end of an academic year. We have so many of us graduating. So the question we need to ask ourselves here with regards to personal branding is, what is my value proposition? What is it that you stand for? Where do you fit? And I'd like to call these the 3 W's, what makes you stand out? What is unique about you? And as we're preparing this presentation, Percy and Rosine and I were laughing because you may be very unique for all the wrong reasons. You may stand out for all the wrong reasons. But even as you stand out, what is it about you that makes you compelling, that makes the interviewing panel want to pick you out of the 10 candidates who are also unique in their own different ways? What is it about you that is compelling? So we're going to begin this journey of self-exploration.
Monica, excuse me,
Yes?
Can I interrupt you once again? We still,
Yes.
It's not still in full mode. We're still seeing your notes. So just change the display settings for a bit and then we'll be able to see in full slide.
Are you seeing it in full slide now?
I think it's loading. Let's wait and see. It's taking some time. Oh, I'm not sure if it's on my side, but I'm seeing it load.
Percy, can you see it as in full?
No, it's not in full. There's just some kind of cycle on your slide, maybe showing that it's loading.
Oh,
Really? Let me see now. Let me try again on this side. Slideshow, resume slideshow, yeah. Oh dear. How about now?
No, just click on the slideshow at the bottom.
Yeah, let me see. Resume slideshow, yeah. Is it on slideshow now?
No,
not yet.
Okay. Let me try again.
Apologies for the technical difficulties, everyone. We're just going to sort it out in a few seconds.
Is it showing now?
No, we're still not seeing anything.
You stop sharing screen. You need to share your screen again.
Okay, let me share my screen. Just a moment. Sorry about that, people. And we're talking to IT people in this, isn't it?
Yeah, but not all of us are IT, so they'll have to be graceful. Okay. Yes, that should work.
Is it now in slideshow?
Not yet.
Yes?
Not yet. I think it's still loading or something. There's some kind of lag. I'm not sure why it's happening.
Is it my internet or what? No, it can't be because I'm in the same office as Uzin. So. It's still not showing? Just a moment, please.
It must be due to you using two screens.
Okay.
So we are seeing this.
Awesome.
Okay.
That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah.
Is it working now?
You're good.
Okay, good. Can you now see properly?
Yeah, it's perfect now.
It's good it's now in
Slide show.
Okay, so sorry about that. So one of my things about my personal brand, maybe I'm not very techy. Okay, so just back to where we are, where we were. We've talked about the 3 W's, about really what you stand for, what makes you stand out, and what makes you compelling. Now, what I've done in this presentation is I've used a lot of athletic concepts because I really respect athletes. And the reason I respect them is because it really takes a lot of discipline to be a great athlete. And discipline calls for intentional dedication and commitment. So we're going to begin this journey with, sort of like an on your mark kind of way to begin. So here we are. How do we begin this journey? Okay, now my screen is freezing. Oh dear. We have so many technical hitches today. I don't know why. Okay.
Working.
Great. It's working now. Great. So now let's begin by asking ourselves some necessary questions. The questions I want us to ask ourselves are divided into 2 parts. We have those that are quite reflective, which is, where you look at what do I want people to see when they look at me? What is my outward representation? Am I unique or do I just blend into the crowd? Am I looking to be an expert in my field? Let's just take 10 seconds and just look through those number 1 to 11 questions. And then now, let us look at from the questions that there from number 12 to number 15. Now, these are the questions that will necessitate application on our side, on your side. So here we are for 1 hour to listen about creating our own brand. So how does that apply to me? How will this help me get funding for my business idea? How will it get me get a scholarship? How will it help me get promoted? How will it help me get that new job? Now, as we delve into answering these questions, I want us to look at 3 very important approaches. Somebody once said that, the one thing that stands between you and success is your attitude. Positive thinking is very necessary when it comes to either any project or anything that you're doing in life. You have to be positive. You have to be confident that you're going to succeed in it. Because if you start with a negative attitude, then you'll always have self-doubt. You'll always criticize each and every step. Not that there's no room for that, but that comes with what we call constructive criticism of self, or with whatever it is, the teams that you're dealing with. Secondly, because we are brands, we've agreed from the beginning that we are brands. One thing about brands is that they are always on showcase. They are always on display. Whether it's the supermarket, whether it is in the marketplace, they are out there to be seen so that they are either picked or rejected. So I want you to start looking at yourself as a brand, not to trivialize who you are as a human being, but just to look at yourself as a brand. Here I am seated on a shelf waiting for somebody to pick me. Now, because of the interconnectivity of today's world from a digital perspective, the presence of brands is all over. you on online platforms, physically as a person, maybe things that you have written and are somewhere on a shelf. Basically, there are various channels in which we can portray ourselves as brands. And now that we've established, now that we've established that baseline of what it is a personal brand is, the things that you need to think about, the things that you need to see how to apply to, I want us now to just get set to getting into the discussion. And you remember those 15 questions I asked before? Let's look and see how we can answer them. Now, the questions I've asked, the questions that were asked, the 15 questions, can actually be answered in various ways. Then one of the ways that I picked was to look at them in 4 quadrants. Now, as human beings, we are all about perception. It is about what you see. And that's how you, in your subconscious, somewhat, make a decision. And for those of us who are in advertising, or even want to get into advertising, that is what marketing and advertising is all about. You want to create that perception so that somebody will say, oh, I have to go get that Apple phone. I have to go and buy that Tesla car. I need to do that, because you begin to play on their emotion and their psyche based on what they see. What do people see when they look at you? What is your character? What kind of human being are you? How do you speak? How do you communicate? How do you express yourself? And I'm not talking about accents or, because we all come from different parts of the world. I'm not talking about accents. I'm talking about proper communication. Are you confident? When you speak about things that you like, are you passionate about them? One of the things that employers look for when they're, interviewing candidates is passion. I remember once when I wanted to resign from a job, my boss told me 2 things. Told me, Monica, if you're resigning because of somebody, you're making the wrong decision. But if you're resigning because you have lost passion, I will happily write your letter, sign your letter of release, and you can leave. How do you present yourself? And what is your track record? For those of us who are still in college, what do our transcripts say? As you've seen in Rosine's presentation, in as much as you'll write a compelling CV, you will need to attach your transcript. So how much effort are you putting to ensure that you get those good grades so that you can get that scholarship? And I'm sure Percy here had an amazing transcript for him to be on full scholarship with MasterCard Foundation. With that perception, who are you seeking to please? Who are you seeking to present yourself to display yourself to? Would it be the organizations that do the scholarships? Could it be the marketplace? Maybe you want to work with Apple, you want to work with Amazon, you want to work with Tesla, you want to work with Mercedes. Are those the people that you're targeting to, present yourself? Because when it comes to brands, you can't be all things to all men. You have to have a specific target market, target market. There are brands that are very good for young people, which the older generation will frown upon. There are those that are for the older generation that the youth will feel they can't even waste their time or energy on them. Then there's the academic institutions. You want to further your education. So how do you package? Because you find a lot of these institutions sometimes ask for essays or where they can actually get to know who you are. So why is it that we are focusing on this audience? What do we want from them in return? Scholarships, employment, promotion, admission, funding. That's how I want us to start thinking. And then, of course, which platforms are available? Where are the channels that I can be able to showcase who I am to get that which I am looking for? So that's basically what it is. All those 4 quadrants are actually interconnected. And then just very quickly, there's something I wanted to share with us still on my slide. And I'm really having some technical difficulty. Maybe Rosine, if you would come to the office to join me, because I don't know why it's not coming. There's a slide that I wanted to. So there's something I want to portray here. And as Rosine helps me to get it, because of today's interconnectivity, we really need to be careful about who we are online. You know, you're the same person. You can't say at the office I'll be professional, but when I'm with my friends, I'm going to be a different person. Because of the interconnectivity of digital platforms, social platforms are tied with professional platforms. And when somebody does a search on you, they will see who you are. So you can't say, you know, I'll post all my parties and everything that I do out there on my Facebook, and then you assume that nobody is going to see them because they are only focusing on the professional platforms. So we need to be very careful about who we portray ourselves out there, especially on the online platforms. So let's look at how we can win. So when we have that context, we have that direction. So how do we win? How do we create winning brands as individuals? How do we do that? So one of the things that I want to stress here is a personal brand is an investment. And for any investment, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes commitment to actually get return on that investment. So when it comes to communication, the key thing here is about self-expression, talking right, being confident, being sure in your mind what it is you want to say, and then speak it out. When it comes, and like I said earlier, it's not about your accent. It's not about, you know, how you speak, you know, with your mother tongue interfere. It's not about that. It is how do you express yourself? How do you write? I'll give you an example. When I was a manager some years ago, I got an application from somebody on email, and they were like, "Dear Miss Sumbi," then how, then R the letter, and U the letter, and a question mark. And I'm like, who writes like this? And are these people like really serious? Because yes, I understand there's SMS and there's WhatsApp and there's Twitter, and you sometimes in the messaging platforms, you want to write short codes. But when you're doing that for professional communication, there's a problem. Because I will not take you seriously. In fact, I won't even go beyond that. How are you? And we have available platforms and programs like Grammarly, which is free, where you can ensure that you've cross-checked, you've spell-checked, and you've written a proper construction of a sentence. And let me tell you, you may think that, when it comes to my professional stuff, I'll do it. But when I'm doing my social stuff, I'll write, you know, with the shortcuts. That line is very thin, because the more you practice on something, it sort of becomes part of you. Why don't you differentiate yourself and say, starting today, everything I communicate is going to be grammatically correct, because that is how you start. Let your friends know you as that guy or that lady who writes proper English. That is a positive point. When it comes to dressing, and we had this discussion with Rosine and Percy, where say for instance, you're in the tech space, you can go to work in shorts, you can wear your distressed jeans. I'll give you an example of one of our former governors. I'm from Kenya. Now, one of our former governors, governor of the Nairobi County, which is the biggest county and capital city of Nairobi, I think he wanted to feel that he wants to be part of the youth. So he dyed his hair blonde and even wrote his name, you know, on the hair. How do you say it, you know? So his name was written on the head in a haircut, and he had blonde hair, and you go for serious meeting with distressed jeans. He had all this jewelry, big rings and chains. That's a whole governor. Now, you can imagine when you're in such serious conversations with people like Dangote, and you're dressed like that. In as much as you're very intelligent in what it is that you're saying, there are people who will not see beyond that. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we operate in an ecosystem. We don't operate in isolation, regardless of the sector that we are in. There'll always be that other person who will further your career. There'll be that other person who is your stepping stone. And it's woe unto you if that other person, and this is what usually happens, is from another generation, the Generation X, who are more conservative and who appreciate proper presentation. So you need to look at it and look at what is acceptable. I'm not telling you to go and invest in a pinstripe 3-piece suit. No, all I'm saying is present yourself and look at what is acceptable within that scenario. I've talked a lot about socialization, but the one thing I'm going to add here is within your sector, look at how it is that you can improve on your LinkedIn profile. I hope we have LinkedIn profiles because that is where employers and HR, recruitment agencies look for candidates. They go to your LinkedIn. What have you portrayed on LinkedIn? Which associations are you part of? Do you comment? Do you contribute? Do you participate? Do you read? Yes, there's the place for TikTok and Netflix and the entertainment, but there's also the place for improving on your knowledge. And that's what brings me to the next point. Your thirst for helpful knowledge, you should be insatiable. I was having a meeting with one of our professors yesterday, and he kept saying that, we are always learning. He's a very distinguished professor, has accomplished so much in the marketplace, has a PhD, innovation, has written papers, but he said we are still learning. Now, you and I, who are, sort of aspiring to get there, we need to keep improving on our knowledge. What COVID has taught us about online learning is that there's so much out there. Improve on how you communicate, improve on your public speaking, improve on how you do your presentations, improve on how you dress. All that is available in the University of Google and YouTube and all that. So that should be something we need to be committed to. But of course, to everything, apply discipline. Now, very quickly, I'll just take us through 3 different scenarios that are applicable to us. CV, like you saw in Rosine's presentation, you need to give a CV. What quality of CV are you going to give? CV talks about your past accomplishments, and it also acts as a predictor of your future capabilities. And that comes out in your personal branding statement. And allow me to talk a little bit about the personal branding statement. Many of us, or what maybe different organizations call it different things. Like Rosine here at Carnegie Mellon, we call it the statement of purpose. Now, you might look through the internet and see very nice constructed statement of purpose and say, I want that one. So you copy it and put it in yours. And it actually maybe does not even reflect who you are. It just, you feel it looks nice on your CV. When the interview comes and you're asked questions about that and you have no idea, what does that say about you? It is important to take time and reflection on yourself as you put together your branding statement, because that statement alone can actually take 15 minutes of your interview time when you're in front of a panel, whether it's a job or because they want to know who are you and what difference do you want to make. At Carnegie Mellon, we are all about educating and empowering tomorrow's future leaders and innovators. So if you give us a statement of purpose like that, we will want to know the how you want to do that. So woe unto you if you have not articulated it and it is not real. And for those of us who want to learn a little bit more about writing your statement of purpose or personal branding statement, please write to us and we'll be able to, there's so much online, but I can actually give you some guidelines on where it is you can get one, or rather a template that you can begin to work and personalize. Now, just a few considerations very quickly. It's very important that we are very honest when it comes to portraying who you are. Do not exaggerate, do not inflate. Let me tell you, there's interesting ways in which you can actually say something, but when you say it, ensure that it is truthful. For example, maybe you were an intern last year at Google, for example, and the team that you are working with, as an intern in that team, they maybe increased the sales by 40%. And then now you write in your CV, I increased the sales to 40%. And don't forget there's always fact checking that happens. So they call Google and say, there was this individual and we hear that they did this and this and this. You see, there's a different way in which you can actually put that together. You can say, I was part of a team that increased the sales and I was able to learn 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're presenting the same information, but you're being a little bit more truthful than taking all the credit for yourself. And then again, I cannot stress it any further. We need to be real. We need to be authentic. And all the tips are right there. And on writing CVs, you can go to LinkedIn, sacrifice $20 1 month and subscribe to the premium and see what is nice there that you can actually do, because there's a lot of ways of improving yourself in terms of how you package yourself, etc., etc. And look at credible recruitment sites. For referees, please do not write someone's name there because they have a big name and they work with a big title and work in a big organization. Because let me tell you, they will fact check. I'm only 2 weeks old at Carnegie Mellon University. And let me tell you, when I did the first level of interviews, the second level, they called me and told me, would like to now talk to your referees. Can you imagine if I just put big titles there, thinking, this job is in Rwanda, they don't know people in Kenya. You know, I found myself in a problem. So it must be people who know you and who can say good things about you. They must be your advocates. And again, you can or cannot have them on your CV. It depends. It's discretionary. So there are those who say, I'll provide the CV, the referees later when required. Others will automatically put them on there. Like I said, it's discretionary. So what happens when we're at the interview letter, getting that job? Now, all the notes are there, and we'll share this presentation with you. And if you want further information, we can always go ahead and do that for you. But let me tell you, don't think we are all learning. We have to rehearse. If you can role play, please do so. And read about that, the place that you read about, whether it's a potential investor, read about this person. What project has he promoted before? How can I tie that into what it is that I want to do? Look at the trend of what it is that they are passionate about. If it is your employer, does this tie into what I want to do and the difference I want to make in the world? Most importantly, listen. But don't just listen. Listen carefully. You know, there are times when you go for interviews because we are anxious, there's pressure, there's that thing to perform. So you're not even listening, you're just thinking about what you're going to say next. Listening is very important. And when you don't understand, ask for clarification. Write down if you need to. But most importantly, be yourself. And something else, number 3, that actually should have been number 1. Think. Please think. The marketplace today, this is me who has been in the marketplace for more than 2 decades. We get very good academic, people who have achieved academic excellence, but they just come and regurgitate that which they learned. And what employers are looking for, what investors are looking for, are people who can think. And sometimes you don't have to be right, but they're able to see, oh, this person can think, this person is teachable, and they'll be able to even guide you in your thought process. So when you ask a question and you're not even sure about it, think aloud. And finally, please, that thing of regret of, oh, I should have asked this question. Maybe I could have done this better. Maybe I would have. No, it is important at the interview, ask what you need to ask. Say all you need to say so that you have closure, and always ask what you feel you need to ask. And finally, for promotions, and this is and the assumption I've made here is for those who are now moving towards managing teams. You know, just saying you want a bigger salary, you want a bigger car, you want to move to a bigger house is really not an effective motivation for you to work harder or to apply for a promotion. It's about making a difference. It is about adding value to the table. And if you're going to be working with people, you may have joined the organization as an intern, and now you're an executive. You maybe want to be CEO at some point. In my former organization a few years ago, this gentleman joined. It was a research organization. He joined in the organization as like a field interviewer. And he told himself, in 4 years, I'm going to be MD of this organization. And true to his word, in 4 years, he was MD of that organization. So he had to put in, how am I going to manage teams? How do I do this? If there are different departments, can I get experience, whether it's like a bank, etc., etc. So read up. Again, here the lesson is continue improving yourself. You don't have to go and get another master's and another master's and another master's. You can get your own executive MBA online, and this is not by paying. Read the different components of what it requires for you to get to that next level and grow on it. Scholarships. The most important thing about a scholarship, it should not happen on you today. It should be something that you're thinking about. So begin with the end in mind. And sure, of course, for scholarships, academic excellence goes without saying. But when you're in there, maybe you're at undergraduate level, look at the projects you want to do. Does it tie into what you want to do 5-10 years from now? Are there electives that will help me even have an edge over people? If it is an essay, I need to be honest and authentic. Most of the maybe Ivy League universities require you to write an essay, of why it is that you want to be there. Be creative. And because you're an avid reader now, you're getting knowledge here and there, pick different scenarios, triangulate that information and use it, effectively. And then, of course, you need to, seek academic counsel and appropriate guidance. For universities, like even here, if you want to write a proposal, you can call Rosine or write to Rosine and say, what exactly is required in the CV? So that now you can write a very, very compelling resume. I'll give you an example of beginning with the end. I'll just give you a short personal story. For me, I've always wanted to be in the communication space from when I was in high school. And so in high school, I did drama, I did public speaking, I did debates, I did spoken word. And then when I went to college, I focused on linguistics. I did my first degree in English. But one of the things that I remember doing was my late dad was going blind because of diabetes, and he couldn't read the paper, and he really loved to read the paper. So what I told him was like, Dad, let me be reading the paper for you. And every day I'd pick the newspaper and read it for him. I would imagine myself as Zain Vaji, that time with CNN, and reading the news. And that's how I began to work on my language, work on my work on my communication. And then I started doing scripts during the jobs that you get in between semesters. I started reading scripts. I started doing programs. Before I realized it, I was in media, I was a presenter, etc. And the rest is history. And now I'm in communications. So whatever it is that you're doing, and as you're building your brand, let it be consistent. Begin with the end in mind. So, I know I've said so much and I've really condensed what it is. This kind of content requires like a full day workshop where we are able to really create, but we only had 25 minutes. I don't know how I'm doing for time. But one of the things I just really want us to remember is, number one, it begins with self-reflection. Who are you? You alone know where your areas of strength are. You alone know where your areas of weakness are. You know who you are. Don't be like this candidate who, when I was running a media house in Kenya, she wanted to be a radio presenter. She sent, first of course, the CVs come, and her CV was impressive, amazing, from Makerere University. So I go through the CV, and then we shortlist and we invite the person for the interview. She opened her mouth, and we were all in shock. Now, there's what you want to do, but there's also what your capability is. Now, one thing about being a radio personality, your voice needs to be vibrant. You need to know how to speak. You need to be funny. You need to be witty. You need to be all these things. She didn't have that, but she had all the qualifications, on her CV. So basically, for us here, you know who you are. You know what you can do, and you know what you can't. So the Bible says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Focus on that stuff that you're really good at and build on it, So just be self-aware. And then secondly, you need to focus on the audience that you're really displaying yourself for. You can't be all things to all men. So who am I packaging myself for? At this particular time, it is my professors, if you're in college, and probably the organizations and institutions that give scholarships. Next level, it's for the marketplace. I want to work for Tesla. I want to work for Mercedes. I want to work for Google. How are you positioning yourself for them to pick you from that shelf? Why would I pick Inyange as opposed to Jibu when it comes to water brands? And all that requires hard work, consistency, and commitment. This is not an event. Building a brand is not an event. You have no idea how many years Coca-Cola, or how much investment of time and money goes into ensuring that Coca-Cola, for example, is that preferred drink. There's always that constant hard work and consistency. So they keep changing their taglines. They keep changing, bringing in brands, improving. It is not an event. It is a process. But guess what? As you continue being consistent, it doesn't matter what the past or the present or the future will be, but you will actually be that brand that and I refer to the slide we had before, that people will even recognize long after you're not even here. Thank you so much for listening. And now I hand it over to Percy for questions. Asante sana.
All right, Monica, thank you very much for that wonderful insight you shared on branding and creating your own personal brand. And a very quick one, please. I would like to apologize for the timing. The technical challenge actually cost us some valuable time. So if we overstretch this program by 10 minutes, please do bear with us because we want to have an interactive section, just a Q&A. And I don't want to steal the show from you. Please, it's your show. You need to ask questions. All right. I do have some of my questions, but you need to ask questions. If you're not comfortable asking, you can drop it on the chat, then we'll pick it up from there. But if you have any question, please do raise up your hand and ask your question. All right, Monica, one thing that stands out for me is that photograph of the giraffe. Am I unique? Do I want to stand out or do I want to blend with the crowd? That actually kind of struck a chord, and I kept asking myself, where exactly do I want to be? And you said we should always try to begin with the end in mind. And just like brands always seek out for visibility, that we also, in our own little space, it's very important to always look out for visibility, try to be authentic, try to be original as much as possible. All right, so I'm looking out for hands to go up. All right, I do have a question for you before we move on. You touched on something very important, okay? So some time back, I stumbled on a particular post. It was on Twitter. It was by Oyedeji or something. It's one of the CEOs I respect so much. So he was talking about how a candidate almost lost his job because of the way he usually appear, perception and how people do see you and stuff like that. But he had to step in against the recommendation of the board to work on this particular candidate to help him get the job because they were about promoting someone who was even less qualified for the role, just undressing. So when I posted this on my WhatsApp status, somebody jumped in and said, oh, well, it does happen in some spaces, but in the tech space, I don't think this is relevant. It's about your skills, what you bring to the table and what do you know and stuff like that. We are in a generation where people, like you mentioned, we tend to embrace all of these things, forgetting the space that we find ourselves. Can you please just touch a little bit more about that, the importance of your appearance, regardless of the space where you are, because you never know who might be in the boardroom. The person that will speak for you may not even be in that boardroom, and that's how you lose out on valuable opportunities.
Well, thank you so much for the question, and you've kind of halfway answered it, but I'll just boost your answer. So when it comes to personal presentation, and I've worked in organizations where you really have to dress very official, and a lot of people actually got ahead because of their presentation, not so much about what their ability is. So there's two ways to answer that question. First and foremost, personal presentation, fortunately or unfortunately, is very key, because you tend to find that you don't know who you're going to be with. You don't know who you're going to meet. You might start as maybe that individual who sits in the backroom office creating stuff. And then maybe the organization you're working for, I'm just giving a simulation here. The organization that you're working for maybe wants to partner or merge with another company. And what this other company wants to do is to bring in funding to expand the company you're currently working for. And maybe that innovation that you're working on is the one that interested them to come into that organization. So here comes the day when you now want, when your CEO wants to introduce you to the potential, can I say, a company CEO that wants to merge with you. And you present yourself looking in distressed jeans, a t-shirt that has so many interesting writings. Something like that can even make the deal go south. Because perhaps this person is from the orientation of, you know what, we need to present ourselves properly. We can pass out on a lot of opportunities for our own benefit based on how we present ourselves. I'm not telling you to go and invest in a suit, 3-piece with pinstripes. No, I am telling you, we're in an ecosystem. So look at what is generally acceptable and be in that space. You understand? And then when there are key events, go for those key events. I don't know whether any of you watch Netflix, but I'll pick an example from New Amsterdam. Do you remember, those of you who've watched, do you remember when they had the cocktail of meeting investors? The doctors had to shed their scrubs and all that to look presentable when they are meeting the potential investors of the hospital. So you need to look at what is generally acceptable and use your own discretion. Don't be too casual. Of course, I'm not telling a techie to wear a tie to the office. It can even get caught up in the things that you're trying to do and it's a health hazard. But be presentable. Be presentable. Don't be on the extreme of casual, because again, your personal impression, the first impression or how you look says a lot about you.
Thank you so much, Monica. Please, that was a very wonderful feedback. It's important to understand the space you find yourself and the ecosystem, because people can easily write you off and tag you irresponsible just based on your dressing alone. They've not given you the chance to even prove yourself or what you bring to the table. Yeah, we do have 2 questions on the chat, but before we take those 2 questions, I have Gad, your hand is up. Please, can you unmute yourself and drop your question for Monica? Gad, are you there? Right, no feedback from him. So I'm going to take the first question on the chat from Jim Bosco. Thank you for dropping your question. He said, when you do not have talent of public speaking, does it mean your personal brand will not be in great way? Or I mean achievement in your career? So this question is basically, if you do not have the talent of public speaking, do you see this as a limitation to your personal brand?
Okay. I will answer with 2 words. It depends. Now, if you're looking for a career where you will be talking to people, if you'll have to be marketing to people, that is a skill that you need to be deliberate about building on. Okay? Now, public speaking is a unique skill, but there's different levels of public speaking. There's just proper self-expression. I wouldn't really call that public speaking. Like proper self-expression. Can you express yourself? If you have an idea, can you articulate it properly? Or can you share an idea properly? But there's also now the skill that you require maybe for persuasion, for convincing people, maybe if you're pursuing a field in marketing and stuff like that, where you now need to really, it's a required skill. But let me tell you, I believe, I come from the school of thought that you can actually build on your public speaking. There's so much platforms available online. How do you talk? Even shy people have managed to become not excellent public speakers, but above average public speakers. So it depends, number one, on your passion, and number two, on your commitment to actually build on that skill set. So I don't know whether I have answered your question, but expressing yourself well is a key for all. I think it's for all professions. Just speaking properly and being able to articulate what it is that you are saying.
Thank you very much, Monica. Okay, Rosine, you want to jump in there?
Yes, and I just wanted to add something small. So we have a Toastmasters club here at CMU, and you might be interested in joining. So it's about public speaking, but it's called the Techie Talkers. So really, you will be with fellow techie young people, and it's every Friday evening. So just send me an email, and I'll send you the details on how you can join our Toastmasters club.
All right, Rosine, thank you so much for the PR for Techie Talkers, and I'm glad to be the Vice President Education of Techie Talkers.
Wow.
I always advertise them.
You're always welcome to join us every Friday. We build a platform that helps you improve your communication skills. All right, so Gad, you mentioned that your mic was interrupted. Please, can we have your question now? Are you there? You're mute, Gad. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Amy, you have your hand up. Do you have a question for Monica?
Okay, thank you. I'm coming.
Okay, I think we have God now.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank your presentation, but to ask the question goes to Rosine Kamaholo. So I have already applied the last year, but I wish to know what the requirement should take in place for those who want to apply again this year. And also, I wish to ask another question. So you Monica, you ask us to use the different platform to learn something which will help us to brand ourselves. But I ask if the CMU, if there is a platform we could use in order to get that skills in an easier way to get full package for brand ourselves. Thank you.
Sorry, I was muted. So Gad, the first criteria when you're looking at returning applicants, you just need to tell us in what ways you have improved since your last application. So you need to be able to articulate, like Monica said, you need to write it nicely and tell us, okay, since last year, my application was not successful, but this is what I have done in order to improve myself on a technical level. Maybe I have taken some English classes, I was promoted at work, or basically, you need to tell us how you as a candidate are different and better since last year. That's the first criteria. And I think the second question was for Monica.
Okay, with regards to whether CMU can actually provide a platform for you to self-improve yourself, I'm not sure whether that is something that we can do, because you can imagine the number of applications that Rosine receives, and they pick the best out of the best. And I think the expectation is by the time you are applying, you understand the criteria. And I think what you maybe need to do is really engage with CMU on understanding the criteria and what exactly is required. And then look at how, because information doesn't need to be on one, information is gotten everywhere. So you can even compare, look at other institutions that offer what exactly is asked, what can I beef up my application on. So it's really a personal responsibility of you to share, because all the admissions office will be waiting for is just that information, so that they can either take you, so they can either go through it to recruit you. So it's really the onus is on you on your self-development. I'll give you an example for that, like in the marketplace. In the marketplace, usually career growth and progression is never the responsibility of the organization. It is the individual responsibility. You come in and say, I've come in as an executive, in 3 years, I want to be a senior manager. Then, because that is what you want, you look within the organization at what criteria is there for me to climb up. So it's really about your self-drive and your passion, and then you build on what is required to get to that level. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Monica and Rosine. Just a little tip to what Rosine said, and then just a secret: please don't resubmit the same SOP you used last year. It can even be flagged as plagiarism. All right, see some ways you can improve it and show traction that you're actually doing something to work on yourself. So I'm going to pick a question from the chat from Moise. Moise is asking Monica, could you tell me steps to approach authenticity, notable to become a public figure? Moise, I don't know if I got that right.
I think
Steps
Moise
to
should
approach
unmute
authenticity.
himself and ask the question directly, because it's not very clear.
Yeah. Moise, are you still on the call? Okay, I'll pick another one from the chat. I am Taban. I have always asked my friends to tell me about my talents. However, they tell me different areas of talent. What can I do to understand and develop my real talent? Monica,
what's the name of the person who's asked?
Taban.
So maybe I'll just throw back the question to you. Are your friends the right people to ask about your talents? You know, when it comes to friends, when it comes to our circles of socialization, you've heard about being friendly but not familiar. When it comes to friends, our friends we're very familiar with our friends. You know, that's why even on a CV, it's not advisable to put a relative or a friend. It has to be somebody who has engaged with you professionally, or who has engaged with you in the education space, and who can give a credible report about who you are. So I would suggest that maybe you could go, I don't know what level, where you're at in your life now. If you're a student, maybe you just need to talk to some of your professors. If you're in your first job, talk to your line manager. What do you see in me? What potential do you see in me? But you also need to start with yourself. You know yourself. You know the talents you have. You know what you're good at. It could be raw talent. It could be something that you can build on. It could be something that you're passionate about. But what are you good at? And then those again, then now, you know, there's talent, which is what we are born with. And then there's the skill, which is what we develop over time, you know, through experience, through learning, and that kind of thing. So I would recommend that you, you start with yourself and then talk to people who have some authority over you in the professional or education circles. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Monica. Taban, I hope that helps you to really discover yourself and then seek areas of improvement in that particular line. Yeah, Jim Pire, I'm coming back to you. I can see your hand is raised, but let me just take this interesting question from the chat. Monica, this question goes to you. I have seen people spice up their abilities and capabilities and walk away with it because they can play along if they are asked to present themselves. Is it advisable to do it?
Wow. That should not even be a question. It shouldn't even be a question because you see, authenticity. We've talked about honesty and integrity in the presentation. Let me tell you, you never get very far with lies, and never admire the people who get away with being untruthful or who get away with bloating things. That's just not the right way to go about it. If you look at different organizations in their mission statements and their values, they keep talking about integrity and honesty and truthfulness. Surely that the people who get away with it are more of an exception. The rule is do the right thing. Just do the right thing even when nobody's looking, even for your own character as a person, you know? And when it comes to authenticity in simpler terms is just being real. Be real. Be real about who you are. Don't exaggerate, don't amplify, don't put hot air. Because let me tell you, when you sit in front of a panel, whether it's a panel that is looking at your application, or it's a panel that is looking at your application for scholarship or employment or promotion, it comes through. When you're dishonest, I've sat in so many interviewing panels, and believe you me, you smell them from a mile away. The ones who come in, you can know this is just hot air. This is just fake. Let me tell you, God rewards true and honest work. Even the universe appreciates diligence and truthfulness. So please do not use those fake people as an example. Let them be. And we're even told that thieves' days are how many? They are 40. At some point, the point of this, it will catch up with them. So do the right thing always.
Thank you very much for that feedback. And please be very careful and do the right thing always. A single mistake or dishonesty can actually ruin your career, and you get to pay the price for a very long time. All right. So, Jim Pirate, you have a question for Monica or Rosine?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. I'm a returning applicant at the CMU-Africa. Hello?
We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yes, I'm a returning applicant in the CMU-Africa. Last time I was not admitted, but I don't know why I'm not admitted. So it's better to know, because of the application phases are so more. So I don't know where or on which phase I fail. So it's better to know where you can update yourself. Because if you know where you fail, then maybe you can meet with the problem you meet with it before. So can you let me know how we'll be informed when we are not admitted?
So we don't provide such information because, of course, our admission criteria is confidential. There's public information about how you can apply, but we can't go into the, first of all, we receive so many applications. And as you saw, if you were there during my presentation, we are one of the best schools in engineering. And that means that we are very selective and demanding in terms of who we admit at the university, not because we're trying to discriminate anyone, but we really want to make sure that whoever we admit is going to be successful. And that has worked for us so far, because our completion rate for the programs is more than 90%, meaning we pick people who will complete the program, because when they don't complete, it's a waste of time for us and for them. So basically, you need to go back, assess yourself, look at your transcript, look at your CV, look at your statement of purpose. If you have plagiarized, you have probably told you, and you will not be allowed to apply again. And you also look at your English language, because this is an American university and this is a graduate school. You will be expected to be proficient to a level of graduate school, not of a secondary school or undergrad, but graduate school. You'll be expected to read and write a lot in English. So those are the criteria that you can judge yourself on. But basically, we are not against returning applicants. We think that, you know, it's a show of some of our students have been applying for 3 times and then they got admitted on the 3rd time, and it shows that they're persistent. But you can't keep bringing the same application over and over again. You need to show us that you have improved. that you are better, that now you qualified. You need to follow us on social media. Look at our students. Follow Percy, for example, and see what he's up to. If you see that Percy is taking 5 certifications in a year, then maybe that's what you need to do. But you need to, basically what I'm trying to say is you need to know us so that when you come to us, we really feel that you know what you are applying to. So that's the advice that I would give.
And just to add on
so
what,
much. So
sorry,
Monica wants to add something. Oh,
okay.
Yes.
So I was saying,
Yes, Monica.
just adding on what Rosine has said, maybe you need to look at a benchmark. Who do I want to benchmark myself with, and what do I need to get there? So maybe Percy, sorry Percy to overuse you, but maybe Percy can be the example here. First and foremost, he's on a full MCF scholarship. 2, he's very good at public speaking because he's VP of the Toastmasters. Oh yeah, and Marianne is saying that Percy is great. So maybe you need to benchmark yourself with Percy, and see what do I need to do, just like Rosini said, to get there so that it's much easier for you from a practical point of view.
All right.
Another small question. When you get the letter from the director of CMU-Africa, that let you know you are not admitted. There is a time you cannot be informed, or you informed before getting to the final phase.
It depends at what level you are, basically where your application has reached, because some people, we ask them to come do the tests, they never show up. That person is going to know very quickly that the application will not be pursued. So it really depends on the stage at which you were dropped in the process. But yes, I'm sure if you know that you did your tests, and you know that you provided the test on time, that you didn't miss any deadline, all of those things, because when you're about to miss a deadline or that when you're missing a document, we always let you know.
Yes.
Yeah. So you can go back on our website, check on our FAQ. I'm going to add our FAQ here in the chat, and it will help you get a sense of what our requirements are, because many times our applicants really don't understand the process.
Thank you, Rosie.
Thank you, Jean-Pierre.
All right. Thank you so much for that wonderful conversation. Oh, I'm seeing 2 more hands up and 1 question on the chat. All right. So we are actually behind schedule. Okay. Can we accommodate these 3 questions, Monica? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. If for those who want to stay on, it's fine. We'll accommodate them. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start with Suleiman. Suleiman, you have your hand up, please.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Give it to us.
Okay. Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening.
Thank you for turning on your video.
Okay, I'm Suleiman Mohammed calling from Nigeria. Although my background is information technology, I'm an expert in cybersecurity. I've been applying for this great institution for more than 5 times now. But I've been having a problem challenging of getting them. I have already got admission in other American universities and abroad, and other UK universities, but I just want to come to that university. But my application has been turning down. Why the other universities are not been giving me admission, but your university has been giving me turning down? I don't know what is the problem. If, like, for example, this University of Central Acacia can give me admission, and the University of ICT UK can give me admission, but I don't know why is the university denying me admission, because I really want to come to that university.
Okay, Suleiman, sorry, I think you should just send me an email, and then I will go back to your applications and then give you personal feedback, because 5 times is a lot, and I don't want you to waste your time on a 6th application without getting some proper feedback. So please send me an email. I'm going to add it here, and just mention that you were on this event and that you talked to me, and that I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you. And second question is that already I'm into the university, because I'm a system analyst at where I'm working now. as a senior system analyst. But I have a project on ground because of we Africans, we have a problem. And that problem, if you don't address it, I don't know when we're going to address it. One of the problem challenges we are having in Africa is that we don't want us to unite. As in, for example, your university and other universities are not united. As in, if you have information, for example, projects, if you send a request from your university to give me some information, it has been denied. So I don't know if you have a platform where if I can go, or let me say, journal, I can go into your online journal to pick some information where I can use for my own project and other things like that.
I think send me an email and add that as well, and I find for you the right
Thank you
people
very
to talk
much.
to. No problem.
Thank you very much.
And we
All right,
appreciate
thank
you
you.
being so interested and passionate in CMU Africa.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Suleiman, for your interest in CMU Africa. We are delighted and we hope that someday we can have you on board. So we have a question on the chat. Can you hear me?
I don't think their sound is very good. Amy, please send your question on the chat, and I think we can only take 2 more questions, and that's it.
Okay, can you hear me now? Why do I have this feedback?
I have muted him. I think his sound is not very good.
Oh, okay, all right. So there's a question on the chat that says, some of Rwandans, we spent about 6 years using French for our academic and later turned into English. This switch from French to English has disturbed, and moreover, we are neither English nor French natives. Is there a motivation to give to those who are not English natives? So I think this person is trying to ask, is there some kind of special treatment when it comes to those who are not English natives in admission decisions? So Roseanne, I think this question is for you.
Question is for me.
Yes.
So I would advise you to take courses. Your case is not unique, but I would advise you, since going forward, I work in English. I'm originally from a Francophone background, but I've worked on my English. English is easier than French, I'll say that. So just take some courses. If you need to spend the next 6 months going to school after work or after school, then that's what you need to do. Read a lot, create an English immersion program for yourself. Stop listening to anything that's not in English. Switch all of your radio listening to English. Start reading at least, I don't know how many pages a day. Reading and writing. Pick whatever interest you have. Is it football? Is it music? And start reading in English. That will help you so much. So basically create an English immersion program for yourself, because from the look of things, English is the language that you're going to be using for the time to come. So yeah, that's my advice to you. And it's been done before, you're not the first one. So trust me, it's doable.
All right, thank you so much. So we have 2 last questions. After these questions, we won't be taking any more questions because we are actually 25 minutes. Okay, so there's a question on the chat that says, thank you so much. This is very interesting, but my question is this: which grade point average at least applicants should have when applying for masters?
So that's an easy question to answer. We don't have a cutoff point. Of course, we're very demanding and we have high requirements, but we look at your application as a whole. We look at your CV, we look at your transcript, we look at your grades, we look at your assessment test scores. We look at all those elements to basically try to create a picture of what type of candidate you are and if you'll be a good fit for our university. So we don't have a cut point per se, because, for example, somebody who graduated 10 years ago and somebody who's in their final year, their grades are not as important, right? So somebody who graduated 10 years ago, now we look more at their experience. What have they been doing because they graduated 10 years ago? So it really depends on a case-to-case basis.
Right, thank you so much. So in a nutshell, they look at your application holistically, not just one aspect of the application. So we have another question. Say, I'm currently a student doing a bachelor's degree in public health, but I've always been interested in pursuing a career in data science, and I would like to make a transition. What advice can you give to Moses?
Unfortunately, none of our programs are conversion programs. You would have to have the adequate academic background to succeed. So I would advise that you either find a way to go back to undergrad and do some IT or engineering bachelor, or really spend a lot of time doing some courses, but you have to show that you have the same ability as somebody who spent 4 years learning IT or engineering in order for you to succeed in this program.
All right. Thank you so much. Let me just take this last question. I want to take another one again. We CMU have robotics this year. How can you apply for the program? Seeing that there is no details on the specific program, this person is not talking about AI in general. He wants to specialize in robotics.
Percy, I trust that you can answer that question. What would you advise an applicant who wants to do robotics?
Okay, I understand that AI is broad, but when you come in here, you have courses that can channel you and make and just help you specialize only in robotics. And we have a very strong robotic professor, David Venom. Before now, he was in Germany working for a particular company. They were trying to build some solutions, but he's back to Africa and he's fully with us right now. All right. So if you're interested in robotics, not just the general AI, yeah, you do have an opportunity to specialize, and that's my feedback to you.
Thank you, Percy.
Thank you very much. So I want to say thank you to Monica and thank you to Rosine. We've covered quite a lot this afternoon, quite informative, and we've been made to understand that your personal brand in many ways is about your reputation. It refers to the way other people see you. Are you a genius? An expert? Are you reliable and credible? What do you represent as an individual? And what do you stand for? These are the questions I expect that going forward should resonate with you. You keep asking yourself. And when next you're asked to present 2 brands, I hope that your name will be one of those brands. Thank you so much for joining CMU-Africa this afternoon. It was great having you on board.
Thank you so much, Percy. You've been a great moderator. Monica, any last words for us who are trying and striving to create a great personal brand? All of us here.
We are all building our brands, even me. I mean, this moving from corporate to academia is also requires a lot of me to go back to learning and trying to be relevant and adding value. So it's really about constant learning, and just don't give up. Start from where you are. You know, don't look at what you've not done. Start from where you are. And thank you so very much for being an attentive audience. And we will respond to the questions that you have asked via email. And thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone. I just launched a poll just for us to get some feedback. If you could take a few minutes before you leave to just fill the poll and let us know how you like this, that we'll be very grateful. And I've added the recruitment email to the chat, so you can copy it and write to us if you have any questions. Enjoy your weekend. Bye.